Hey guys, welcome to Cinephile Stories number 4. Okay, we're going to be talking about another movie. We're going to ditch German Expressionism this time, and we're going to go a couple years ahead. We're going to stick with the Dracula story, and we're going to do Hollywood's version of it. Okay, so last time I was talking about Nosferatu, which was by F.W. Murnau, part of the German Expressionism movement. Now I'm going to talk about the huge, one of the most iconic movies in Hollywood history, Dracula. Vampire horror film released by Universal when, Universal Studios was basically the king of horror. I'm not really sure when they lost that title. They probably lost it somewhere around the 60s. I'm not really sure. There's definitely something to think about. I mean, there's a lot of things I could say about this film. But I don't know where to start. Okay. First off, I'm going to say one thing. And yeah, and I mean this. Todd Browning did not direct this movie. Counting him as a director is an insult to directors. Now, I like Todd Browning as much as the next guy, okay? But basically, here's what he did for Dracula when he was being put as director, okay? You see, originally he wanted this to be a collaboration between Lon Chaney and him because he's got this little gay thing for Lon Chaney and he has to be obsessed with the guy every 5 seconds. So, of course, he was just completely whiny and pissed off at the movie for no reason, just being a pouty child about it, and he basically didn't really do anything. Pretty much, he let cinematographer Karl Freund take over pretty much the whole movie. Pretty much. And he's uncredited as a director, but he's technically the director of the movie, okay? So, as far as I care to say, Karl Freund is the director of Dracula. Just saying. Also, he did the photography for Metropolis. Karl Freund did. Yeah. He was amazing. I love Metropolis. Anybody who works on Metropolis is automatically my favorite person, most favorite person ever. But that's just my opinion. If people want to continue and say Todd Browning was the original director, fine. But as far as I'm concerned, Karl Freund was the director. But I suppose... yeah. I'm going to just consider Karl Freund the director. So moving on past that, let's talk a little bit more about the movie. Also, kind of stepping away from the usual way of doing things. This movie kind of... I'm not really sure. It's very different compared to Nosferatu. But it's kind of interesting to watch both of these movies because... just simply because it's two different countries' take on it. I mean, Nosferatu... Now, the German version of Nosferatu basically envisioned Count Orlok as very ugly, very disgusting, very scary on the outside. You know, when it came to subtlety, Nosferatu kind of threw that out the window. It was pretty obvious that he was supposed to look scary, just as much as he was supposed to act it. With Dracula, you can definitely see that there's something different there. The scares are more subtle. And instead of a kind of a horrifying monster, we get a handsome count in Count Dracula, which is definitely something interesting to think about. I'm going to say ahead of time that I love this movie. And yes, as weird as it sounds, I do think it's scarier than Nosferatu. For a multitude of reasons. The first reason being just simply the Dracula. Now, in Nosferatu, I will not lie, it's pretty damn creepy. But as I said in my last Cinephile Stories thing, Nosferatu, or Count Orlok, kept bumbling around like an idiot and kind of ruining the moments at certain points, which I think was a little bit annoying. I'm sorry, it just wasn't, whenever he would do a scary moment, he would kind of ruin it with some of his antics, as I like to call it, which, they ended when he got found out, but he did so much of it that I was just like, okay. But Dracula by Bela Lugosi, oh my god, Bela. I love Bela Lugosi. My god, can this man put on a role. And the way he played Dracula was just so good. And I really, really enjoyed it. Moving on from that. This Dracula, I think, is a lot more scarier because not only of the fact that this one doesn't act like a bumbling fool, and in fact, he's very conniving and mischievous. It's interesting just to see this type of thing. What made him scary was the fact that he was actually handsome looking. In Nosferatu, Count Orlok basically, he's more of a predator sneaking onto his prey, but Dracula doesn't even have to worry about that. He could practically entrance you into just giving him your blood. I mean, it's creepy to know that while Nosferatu has this sort of fight or flight characteristic where if you could probably escape him, but I doubt you'd try, and then there's Dracula, which is basically you're not even going to get a chance to escape. He's got this creepy wall around him that's kind of impenetrable, and people who go through the wall don't come back out. So it's very interesting. Okay, so comparing the plot to Nosferatu, it's different, very different. Couple differences between Nosferatu and Dracula. Most notably, where all the conflict takes place, what brings him to Dracula's castle, names are changed, of course, to their originals from the book. In my view, it's kind of better. It's better. Personally. Nosferatu had a kind of epic scale to it that was sort of just kind of not scary. While Dracula was kind of like a murder mystery in a way that a lot of the movie takes place in a mansion. It delves off elsewhere, but it also pretty much, it takes place in this mansion, and it's very closed in, and it's very tense and suspenseful. And I like it. So, let's talk about some of the characters. Count Dracula, excellent. I think he's got a very good amount of subtlety. I am especially creeped out when there would be times where the camera would just show his face for 5 seconds, and it would just be creepy because of the way he just stares. And I think that's one of the reasons Bela Lugosi is really such an amazing Dracula. Mina is an interesting character, so to speak. She's definitely got her own set of problems. she's kinda just there to be a plot device, but she does have enough characterization for me to not really care. Played by Helen Chandler, in which, yeah, she was an amazing actress. Straight up. She played Mina very well, even if the character wasn't perfect. John Harker was played by David Manners. He was also a very good actor. Did a very good job. And then there's one of my favorite things in the whole movie, Van Helsing. Played by the late Edward Van Sloan, who... so amazing. I especially love Van Helsing in this because he is so he's so different. There's a lot of times in the movie where Van Helsing and Count Dracula kind of just exchange these words and just kind of battle it out with their own wits. And it's really, really something interesting to watch. Both Van Helsing and Count Dracula create this tense environment, and it's really absolutely amazing because just watching them just battle out, because Van Helsing knows exactly who Count Dracula is, and he's ready to fight him, and then Count Dracula's like, "Oh, you think you can beat me?" And Van Helsing's like, "Yeah, actually, I can do that." And each is trying to out. It's almost like they're playing a game where Van Helsing will do one thing, Count Dracula will try to beat that one thing, and then Van Helsing will try to override his other thing, and they're both just flying back and forth, doing these different tricks of the trade in order to outwit the other person so they can continue doing what they want to do. And it's really interesting, and Edward Van Sloan did an amazing job, just as much as Bela Lugosi sold Count Dracula. There's a perfectly good reason why this is a legendary picture. And I don't mean because of the directing. And that's one of the things this movie suffers from. And it really suffers from this. It's a great movie, but it suffers so bad. One of the reasons Nosferatu was so good was due to its directing by the great F.W. Murnau. Such a great amount of creepiness in every scene and every shot, that kind of went with their expressions in kind of the best way possible. Here you can tell that the disorganized production that went into this movie kind of showed. It really did. Some scenes, I guess, try to make sense, and then others just kind of hit deadpan boring. Nothing's really inspired in this movie. And that's kind of sad, because this is a movie that looked like if I had been alive at the time and saw Dracula in theaters, I'd have probably thought that it was a movie that had a lot of potential, but kind of squandered it on bad direction. And the direction was really kind of poor. And that's really sad. But it's understandable because of what Todd Browning put the whole damn thing through. Okay? I don't mean to insult Todd Browning, but it really kind of pisses me off how one man's hissy fit kind of ruins this entire freaking movie. In a way. And yes, it was a hissy fit. It's a big hissy fit. If he's that obsessed with Lon Chaney, he can take Lon Chaney again in another movie. Which he did, but still. It's just so stupid. Whatever. Karl Freund did a better job than you anyways. But, the directing was still uninspiring. That's all I can really say. But moving on. Pretty much most of the... Okay, I also want to... There's a cast member I missed. Renfield. Played by the late Dwight Frye. by God, he was really good, and I mean really good. But he did one of the creepiest scenes I've ever seen. There's this one time when after he gets turned by Dracula, he goes with Dracula, stows away on the ship, and basically Dracula just spends the whole time on that ship killing everybody in the crew while it's traveling back to London. When they show up back to London, these guys basically find a bunch of dead bodies and Fry. Fry just, and I swear to God, it just shows Renfield, the character he plays, just holding onto this ladder and staring. Just staring with this wide smile like he's gone absolutely nuts. And it is so creepy because he doesn't even move, he just stares. Just stares with that creepy, wide-eyed, wide smile face. And I swear to God, it had me kind of in chills because of just how creepy it is. So I did kind of want to mention that this was such an interesting movie. Talking about some other things, how are the set pieces? Set pieces are pretty good. Most of this movie has a good scenery. Definitely what does set the mood for this movie is a lot of the cinematography. Although the directing is a little uninspired and the cinematography kind of matches that, the cinematography at points, like, the mood is set. You can tell the mood is set. And I know the mood is set because I think Dracula is still scarier than Nosferatu. But, because there's this one part where Dracula is going through this crowded London street at night, and he grabs this woman who's selling flowers and sucks her blood, and oh my God, that creeped me out too. There are just a multitude of things that really sold this movie for me in a lot of ways. And I will still say, and Bela Lugosi as Dracula compared to Max Schreck as Nosferatu. While I do admire Max Schreck's version of Nosferatu, because he applied a sort of manic personality to Nosferatu, like he was kind of a loose cannon. Dracula was like Bela Lugosi's Dracula was a lot more scarier because he was very formal, very conniving, very just collected, focused. When he latched his eyes onto something, he wouldn't stop. He would go to the ends of the earth to get what he wanted. Whereas Nosferatu seemed like the type of guy that would his attention span would probably drop if he was eyeing something even better, if you know what I mean. I think, in general, I don't think there's a lot more to say about this film. Which is probably why this video is gonna be a little bit shorter than my most versions. Because I've pretty much said all I can about Dracula. I mean, it's pretty much what gave Universal the horror movie moniker. What made Universal Studios the scare studio of its time. And it did all of that in the best way possible. And you have to admire it for that. You really do. But, and you know what? That's probably where I'm just going to leave it. Dracula, directed by Karl Freund, not Todd Browning. And, I'll see you guys next time.